The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, thank you so much for joining us today for Digital Permits Review, Lessons Learned and Key Insights. This is the fourth installment of Bluebeam's webinar series focusing on the digital permit review process. I'm Mark Williams, I'm PR manager here at Bluebeam. I am so glad to have been a part of this incredible series with our host, Lillian Magianis. I am excited to hear from our panelists and learn their stories and find out what worked and what didn't work in their own process and what they learned along their journey implementing digital permit review. Before I hand things off to our moderator, Lillian Magianis, who will introduce our panelists, I'd actually like to take a few minutes and share a little background about who Bluebeam is and how we partner with our customers to solve their biggest challenges. For those who design, engineer, bid, and build our world, Bluebeam solutions boost productivity, expand collaboration, and increase accountability in the office or in the field. Since 2002, Bluebeam has made desktop, mobile, and cloud-based solutions for paperless workflows that set the standard for collaboration and workflow efficiency for design and construction professionals worldwide. We've built our award-winning software to serve as essential workflow solutions that put all project partners into one cohesive conversation that is built around the design documents themselves. Bluebeam solutions connect projects and teams, reduce rework, increase productivity while driving the benefits where you need them most, saving time and money. More than 1.9 million customers in more than 130 countries trust Bluebeam solutions to work smarter. Our collaborative platform, Bluebeam Studio, has hosted over 27 billion, and yes, that's billion with a B, interactions since we launched it in 2010. Bluebeam is honored to be used by 99 of the top 100 contractors as reported by ENR, and we deliver powerful, measurable results across organizations, government agencies, and individual project partners worldwide. We're also proud advocates for the industry, supporting over 30 international user groups and industry organizations that are pursuing standards and advancing AEC technology concepts worldwide. Bluebeam was founded in Pasadena, and as the industry has grown, so have we. We've since opened additional offices in San Diego, Chicago, Dallas, Manchester, New Hampshire, London, Stockholm, Copenhagen, Munich, and most recently in Brisbane, Australia. The key to Bluebeam's success is a customer-focused approach to product development. We work with the industry to create solutions for the industry. So our customers have told us they need solutions that are easy to access and use, tools that improve decision-making, they increase accountability, and they offer customized, automated deployment for teams and organizations. They need tools that leverage open standards and APIs so everyone can get on the same page regardless of their hardware. So how does Revu address these needs? By providing real-time access to relevant data, by standardizing processes and workflows that increase predictability and allow teams to quickly respond to project changes, by producing more consistent deliverables and better quality handover documentation, generating better estimates more quickly, increased speed, and reducing rework and project delays, improving visibility and accessibility to critical project information to keep surprises to an absolute minimum, and automating time-consuming manual processes that guarantee quality and reduce repetitive work. So by increasing accountability and clarifying responsibility, all done through better data collection and better management. These efficiencies deliver benefits that can be directly measured and tracked over time. Bluebeam Global Services surveyed customers at individual companies, and review users reported quantifiable savings in time that you can see here that improved work quality and boosted productivity and could be directly tied to their bottom line. Again, I'd like to thank you for just allowing me to talk a little bit more about Bluebeam and tell you a little bit about our backstory. My name is Mark Williams, I'm PR manager, and with that, I would like to hand it over to Lillian Magianis to introduce today's panelists and host our discussion. Lily?
Thank you, Mark. Just want to make sure audio is coming through, video is coming through.
Just fine, looks good.
Perfect, thank you so much. Whew, I can't believe we made it. This is the final webinar in our municipality series. And for those of you who have been here since the first webinar and you're here towards the end, thank you so much for being part of the series. Thank you for your feedback and your enthusiasm to wanting to learn more on how you can, take your paper digital print review process and transform it into a digital process using Bluebeam Review. It's no secret, this is a passion project of mine. I work with tons of cities and municipalities myself during my life at Bluebeam. I came from a public works projects before my life at Bluebeam. So this is something that's very near and dear to me in wanting to make sure that everyone, in a city, in an agency, knows exactly what they need to do. They know how to leverage those PDF standards, how to create tools within Review that can help continue to have clarity in your communication, as well as consistency with communication across the board from your intake process and from your review process, and then again, sending those corrections to the permit applicant. So with further ado, I want to introduce our panelist that we have today. I'm really excited to have, Guinevere from City of Westminster. So she's going to say hello in a second. Thank you, Guinevere, for being here with us. Go ahead and if you don't mind introducing yourself to the audience, give a little bit about your background and how you discovered Bluebeam.
Sure. So thank you for having me. My name is Genevieve Preisinger. I am an application specialist with City of Westminster and their Community Development Department. And I have been with them for almost 4 years now. And we went live in 2016 with our electronic reviews. And I started actually with the city as an associate planner, kind of jumped ship when we started doing the electronic reviews. And so now I help out with those softwares that we use for that.
Awesome. Thank you, Guinevere. Next, I want to go ahead and introduce Michael Niemer from Snohomish County. Hi, Michael.
Good morning.
Good morning. Go ahead and please introduce yourself to the audience.
Hi, I'm Mike Niemer. I'm a senior plans examiner with Snohomish County, north of Seattle, Washington. I joined Snohomish County actually as a building inspector after spending about a decade in commercial construction. And that was my initial introduction to Bluebeam. So when I joined the county and they knew I had that experience, they knew they wanted to go there. And I was lucky enough to be able to help pull everyone along on the journey into the Bluebeam and going towards digital plan review and getting everything set up. So doing the day job as an inspector and plans examiner while getting Bluebeam and digital plan review, helping in that process.
Awesome. Thank you for being part of this panel today, Mike. I really appreciate your time, and I'm excited for folks to hear a little bit more about your insights with your digital transformation.
Thank you.
All right, and then I also want to introduce our final panelist that's here from all the way of City of Las Vegas, Yolanda.
Hello.
Hi, Yolanda. Thank you for being here with us. Go ahead and please introduce yourself to the audience.
So my name is Yolanda Palomo with the City of Las Vegas, Nevada, and I've been with the building department for 15 years. We launched Bluebeam last year, so we've been live for a year with a fully integrated system, which we're very excited about, and we were happy we did it before COVID struck. So I'm very excited to be part of the panel and to share our learnings.
Thank you so much for being part of this panel. I just want to say a quick hello to our friends who are logged in. I see a lot of hellos. We have the City of Fontana with us today. We have City of Austin who's also logged in. We have a lot of folks from the city from Canada, from various different states who are logging in. We also have New York on the line with us. So thank you so much for being here with us. If you want to give any of the panelists a quick shout out, or if you have any specific questions, feel free to use the questions window in your GoTo meeting panel and go ahead and type in your questions. So definitely I want to make sure that this panel, that you're able to get as much information you can to continue on wherever you are in your journey, whether you're getting started because of so many things of maybe perhaps COVID was one of the main reasons you want to go ahead and transform your review process into digital, or whether you're already in the middle of the process and you really want to have a check of where you are in your path. You know, sometimes you have those questions of, am I doing this right? What could I be doing better? So it's always really great to kind of reach out to a great network, a community, or if you're ready for the next phase, whatever that is. I want to make sure that, you know, this is the time for you to ask those questions. So I want to make sure that everyone here tuning in today has a really good basic knowledge of each panelist permit review workflow. And I'm going to have each one of them kind of give an overview, and then we'll start to dive into some really good questions that we were able to carve out for today. So we'll start first with Guinevere. So Guinevere, could you be able to tell everyone tuning in here today, so just a high level, you know, overview of what is your digital permit review workflow look like today?
Yeah, so I'll give a high level of what we do for our process. It's a little bit different with our building division and our planning division for permits and projects. So I'll go over both of those and what the similarities and differences are. Like I mentioned before, in 2016, we went live with our electronic reviews, and we had required that everybody who was applying for a permit, applying for projects, they submit everything electronically. We knew that we would need data management software, and we also knew that we would need an electronic review software. And so we went with Trackit as our data management platform, and then we went with Bluebeam as our electronic review platform. And the two are integrated, they work together. We use them in conjunction. And we have an online portal for our applicants. It's called eTrackit, and they can log in. They can go ahead and they can apply for pretty much every permit that we have available. That's anywhere from a fence permit all the way up to our new commercial buildings and residential buildings. Through that online platform, they can upload all of the documentation needed. They can add any additional information that we need. And then we are notified internally that the permit has come in. Those are our permit techs. We'll get that for the permit, and they'll do a completeness check. They'll make sure that all the required information is there. They'll make sure that they're actually applying for the correct permit, and that all the attachments are there. If it is missing anything, it is an incomplete application, and we send it back to our applicants to review. Once it is a complete application, if it is a counter permit, so our roof permits, our air conditioners, furnaces, things like that, our permit techs can go ahead and they can approve that right there. If it's anything further than that, if it's more involved, interior building, if it's a commercial new or residential, they will send it on to our plans examiners. And our plans examiners will receive that. They'll get it and they will send it off to any other reviewer that they think might need to look at it. So fire needs to look at it, parks needs to look at it. They can all get that. And that again is also our data management system. And then if we do have external reviewers who need to look at it, they usually what they'll do is just email them and they'll let them know that we've got a permit that they need to look at. If the document is too large to email, they'll use a file share site that they can access the plans from. Now here, this is where it's a little bit different between the building division and planning division. So our building division, they will have the permit, they'll open it up directly from Trackit into Bluebeam. And in there, they have their stamps that they need. They have the approved, revisions required stamps. And then we also made a tool set for them that has all of their, basically their rubber stamps that they used to have when they had hard copies. So we made those all as a tool set. They'll stamp everything they need on there, but they will go back into the data management system, and that's where they type up all their specific notes. And the reason that they do it that way is because there's oftentimes so much information that they need to put on the plans, it can get kind of jumbled. So they use the data management system for that, and then just put the standard notes on the actual plans. Once everybody's looked at it and reviewed it, they will take it, they'll save it back to the data management system. And then our project manager will go in there and they will make sure everything looks good, everybody stamped it, looks okay. They will take that, what they have to do is save it locally to their desktop. and then they will save that as the final copy, and they'll upload that right back into the data management system. At that point, they will change the status, and that status change is what notifies our applicants that it either needs to be revised or if it's complete. If it's revised, then they obviously go in there. They can go back through the online platform. They upload all of their new plans, their revisions, and we keep going through that process. If it is complete, then they're able to pay for that permit right there online, and then the permit is issued. We don't require that the permit is printed and put on site because we have access to it electronically, but we do require that the plans are printed and on site for our inspectors if the inspections come. Now it's pretty much the same process for planning. The only difference is after they do the completeness check and they send it off to the planners to do their reviews, the planners will actually open that up again track it into Bluebeam, but they put their notes and all their reviews right on the plan set. So everything is saved right there on the plan set. They do the same thing. They will save that right back into Track It. And then that project manager will make that final copy, save it locally, upload it back into Track It, change the status, and if it's complete, then they can go through and they can start the building process, the permitting process.
Wow, that sounds amazing. One question for you that came in from our friend Christina from City of Fontana. She wants to know which version of Track It to use. I actually happen to know that they use Track It as well.
Okay, so we actually just upgraded and we are on 18.2 hotfix 8.
Okay, awesome. Perfect. I hope that was a good answer for you, Christina. And now I want to go ahead to Michael Niemer. If you can go ahead and just walk us through at a high level, what does your electronic permit review workflow look like for Snohomish County?
Okay, thanks, Genevieve. Set the stage there. There'll be a lot of similarities. I think you just heard from Colorado, and try to go over a high level as well, as much detail. I come from kind of the one-off plan review, and I'll try to describe our multi-reviewer process as best as I know, just for more or less helping those work groups out as well. From the beginning, we start with, I guess I'll go back to as well, when do we start? Some form of electronic permitting since 2005, and that was for the easy ones, over-the-counter stuff. We've been doing plan review for sprinklers electronically through our portal since probably 2010 or so. Moved into all permit types in 17 when we really had Bluebeam up and running. That's when, I should say, building permit types. We could start, it was an option. And then 18, about this time 2 years ago, is when we went full 100% electronic permitting. So that's from submittal to issuance. It doesn't really go to paper until it's in the field when we need the building plans. So our process all along has been through mybuildingpermit.com is the first step to get the building application documents in. Of course, we have our website that provides all the requirements, but My Building Permit's a multi-jurisdictional portal. It's not built by a software company. It's built by an alliance put together by regional partners here, multiple jurisdictions. And that acts as the portal where you can go to any participating jurisdiction, upload, start the permit application process. And that's also the payment portal, the customer end of the tracking side, where's my permit, who has it, and all the way through scheduling inspections. And that's tied directly to our system. Amanda is our permit tracking system. So anything that comes into My Building Permit, once our permit techs have released it, it starts populating Amanda, and the two programs start talking for that permit number. And when it's in Amanda, that's where we can start making assignments. So whether it just goes to one reviewer or multiple, and whether it needs to go to, say, a supervisor to find the project manager and all of the subject matter experts. And that's the same really for everyone. We have one difference there is our permitting department is everybody that looks at plans. And then we have our subgroups within permitting. And for very simple commercial and all residential projects mostly, everything's a one-off review. So we'll go to Amanda to confirm the documents that have been brought in, and then we'll open them up from our main database into Bluebeam look at them one at a time to do our reviews. We have our tool sets that largely we've built on our own. Tried to build as much as I could when helping set up the county, but really wanted our other SMEs to build their own sets because they know what they need to look at for theirs. So giving as much training as possible and setting everyone right. We did recreate our rubber stamps, so we have all those. And then we have some smarter tools that we use as well. I'll get into that in a little bit. Mm-hmm. And so our one-off reviews we do right out of the database in Bluebeam, save it back, and then we basically change the status of everything in Amanda to let everyone know where they are and change the designation in there so they know which one's the approved plan and multiple reviews if there are. I guess I'll talk about the smart tools now. Is we do have some preset so we can find them quickly in our markups list. For revisions required, we set them up so we can search by subject. And for the last year and a half, I haven't written a disapproval letter. So as much as possible, we're using the markups list for those that are willing to do it, because we can make a nice concise list with the pictures and exactly what's wrong and where it's wrong that needs to be addressed. And that's been really nice. And on the other end of that, when we get the revisions back, it's nice to have all those markups saved. You can copy and paste them on the new plans. And if it's addressed, I delete the comment. And if it needs to go back again, then it stays. And it's really sped up the workflow. That was kind of a aha moment for a lot of reviewers once they learned that trick, that resubmittal reviews were drastically cut in review time from the old paper process. So that's kind of the one-off. And then when we have multiple reviewers that need to look at the same time, that's where we leverage studio sessions. And that's where we'll have our permit text, load everything up into a session, create them, invite everybody that needs to go in after supervisors have confirmed project managers. So there's a little coordination that goes on beforehand. Everyone has a chance to go in and participate. What's nice with those is when the review's done, the project manager just talks to everyone, confirms it's done, and we can create a complete reviewed set that then goes back to the customer. If it's the final one that's approved, then we move into that phase of land use planning where we need that more or less official one back without the comments. Otherwise, we keep the review cycle going, but it's nice to have that record still. Again, so reviewers can still take comments and bring them forward to the resubmittal, see if things were addressed much more quickly. And once everything's done in Bluebeam and back to Amanda status, it all goes back again to the My Building Permit portal, and the customer knows the whole time where the status of their permit is. And that's been nice too, because it's really cut down on the phone calls of where's my permit, because they can go in and look, and they can actually just say, hey, can I speak to the reviewer, and see where they are with it. It's taken a lot of that legwork out of the equation. Nice.
Yeah.
I think I've covered everything. Didn't have as good of a detailed list, but I think that's the high level view.
No, I think you covered it really well. So we have a lot of great questions, and I want to follow up with you specifically and come back. But I want to go ahead and turn over to our final panelist, Yolanda Palomo, where she can share with us at a high level her electronic review process. Yolanda?
Hi, everybody. So we started on electronic permits in 2013 with the simple permits that do not require a plan review, like water heaters and HVAC changeouts. So we had about 8 permits initially, and then we went up to about 18 different permits. Last year, we launched our Bluebeam use by creating a dashboard for our customers online. Right now, we have the building department and the planning department that is using the online dashboard where the customer can create a login. They log in and they can submit their projects for review. They can see all the projects that they've submitted over time, and all of the resubmittals go through this dashboard. Once they submit, it automatically sends those documents via the web service that we created to our permitting system, which is Infor. Infor then controls all of the workflows and the reviews for all of the reviewers. It goes first to the technician. The web service also, when it brings it to Infor, creates a session for the building department. The building department has chosen to use sessions for all of our projects so that all of the reviewers have access to the files at the same time. The planning department is not using sessions, they're staying with just the projects. So when we get the the permit submitted, it goes on a list for the permit technicians, and similar to what Colorado is doing, technicians look at it and make sure that it's complete submittal before they route it to review. If it's not complete, they send it back to the customer, and the permitting system will automatically email the customer if they have an RFI, and then they can see on their dashboard that we've sent it back to them, and they can resubmit through their dashboard. Once we accept it and it's complete, it will automatically create a session, and the plans examiners can go directly into the session from our permitting system. So we built a link so that they don't have to go into Bluebeam separately. There's a special detail where they can link to the Bluebeam session for that project and start their reviews there. They are doing markups. We do have the tool chest that we created. Genevieve was really nice to show us what they had created, and so we built our own as well. And the plans examiners will make markups on the plans. In addition to that, they also put notes in our Infor system on their review. So if it's denied, they'll put notes in their review as well, so the customer can also see those online. And once the project is approved throughout the whole system, the Infor, or throughout the whole process, Infor will email the customer whenever things are needed. When we're done, our Infor system will email the customer links to the plans, the Bluebeam links to the finally approved plans. Throughout the process, we keep all of the files in the system, so we have access to go back and look, and we version it automatically. We also name the files automatically. We do not ask the customer to name the files when they're submitting. So they have a bucket depending on the discipline. We're calling them buckets, a space for architectural, for electrical, for plumbing. They put it in that space, and we automatically name it based on that discipline. And then we version it every time they have to send us a correction until the finals are issued. Then once the permit is issued, we do require that they print out the plans for the inspector. Our inspectors have iPads, but we are not yet at the point where they can look at the plans electronically. So right now the customer still does have to do one final printout, but they've loved it. They told us that they have saved a lot of money in the paper submittals and eliminating all of that process. Since we're using sessions, everyone has access to the files at all times. We have fire, public works, planning, all doing reviews with the building folks at the same time. So we're really seeing an improvement in terms of access to the plans in that respect. The next step for us is getting the fire department to join the dashboard. Their fire permits are still on paper, but basically that's the overview of the process so far.
Thank you, Yolanda. And thank you everyone for submitting your questions. But Yolanda, you actually started to touch on something that I wanted to dive into. And that is, what does the handoff look like when you take your permit plans into the field? You mentioned, I love your explanation that you still have the applicants, print out those plans for the inspector to review them on site. Guinevere, you also mentioned that they also get printed out, and curious to know from you, Michael, I think it's also the same thing. One question that came through as far as those printouts, they wanted to know, how do you track those comments or changes in the field? How does that come back into the system? And then a second part to that question is, thinking future, thinking what should be the ideal state, or what is your wish list of an ideal state? Like, how would you want that to look like in the future to help you kind of complete that digital transformation? So Guinevere, I'll have you start with that first, and then if you can jump in and answer the question, Michael, afterwards, that will be great.
Hello. So we do have iPads that our inspectors will take out into the field, and they can access the plans on the iPads. But we quickly realized that with internet connection sometimes not being the greatest, they weren't able to access them when they needed them. And that's when we started requiring, yes, please do have the plans out there on the site. And I'm sorry, can you repeat the second question?
Yeah, the second question is more like, sort of, what would you like that ideal state to look like? This is not thinking about what you can and cannot do in Bluebeam today. Like, how would you like that to look like? What would that ideal state, be like for you?
I think eventually what we would love to do is not have to have people print out those plans and be able to access them all electronically when our inspectors are out there. They do have the larger iPads, but still it is a little hard to see.
Right.
So what that might look like, I'm not sure if it's some kind of mobile station that they would take with them that has the larger monitors that they can actually view those plans on. But that's kind of our stuff right there is why we have them print those out there.
Michael, this question came through, is a similar topic regarding the field handoff. A question came through is, how are you tracking those comments coming back in from any of those written notes? How does that get back into the Amanda system?
Are these the ones specifically from the field getting back in? Okay, those ones, it's more kind of keeping a level of communication with our builders representatives, our customers. So given we have the technology now, we don't have the old style where bring your plans in, and we used to do that. We're bring your plans in and we'll update our copy and update your field copy. So now we can do that with email or uploading through the portal. So we have that option for, say first revision, second. It's just communicating what's the change, making sure it is something that doesn't technically require the new permit, and then updating our electronic record, and then sending the clear instruction back to our customer. Here's the revised approved page, hopefully not set, but page or pages. And please slip sheet. You can either use the old one and say superseded, so we have the record, but it's again asking them to print that new one out to have it. So it's not a question, but again, the electronic record's updated. So with our inspectors and their iPads, assuming connectivity, same issue. We have some remote areas, and just making sure that an inspector could look in back to the system and confirm that that change was indeed approved. So the new updated approval note and stamp and clear instruction, they'll have the email, from us that says, this was approved, please put it out there. So ideally, having everything electronic and reliable would be a lot easier to do that. We could slip sheet, say, and keep it electronic, and we'd all have access to do that. Would almost have to be somewhat automatic, in the mornings or regularly whenever our inspectors plug in the iPad. We have an inspector app right now, but really to have, if there was a way to have every approved permit, in there, so they could just find it on the fly. That or 5G kicks off and everybody has connectivity everywhere, but that'd be ideal to make it work there. Until then, it's just really keeping that communication open, that this is the latest and greatest and everybody has it.
Sounds like communication is definitely key. Michael, while I'll still have you, I want to kind of give you another follow-up question from someone in the audience. They would like to know, they're trying to figure out some of the best practices for them with using Bluebeam to create sort of development warranty punch lists, done by various, field staff for utility street development. Could you share with this individual maybe one or two best practices that you say this has been key or fundamental to making sure to keep the communication flow going? What would that be?
Was this question specifically to keeping the permit documents in a state where you can use them then for punch lists toward the end and using Bluebeam tools?
Yeah, it sounds like they're definitely looking for a best practice for, again, the punch list, but also having that information, having that information flow to the field and also back into the counter.
Okay. I guess with ours, best practice, keeping the communication open, the lines, everyone knows that that's what's happening. Be best, I guess, from the punch list perspective, if we had that other category, that process is happening and that we have that new document in our system that can be used for that. Ideally, if everyone has connection, I think Studio would be a great place for it. Punch list because of the markups list feature. Consequently, punch list is how I learned Bluebeam from the very beginning in the field when building, and fell in love with it then. I thought it was just the most amazing tool that I didn't have to go around with sticky notes anymore and remember where stuff was. I mean, you could either take the picture and land it, or just have your tool set already set up with initials. I think we had initials for every contractor, and a special tool belt that we could just pull from the tool chest. And as we were going around the field, at that time it was a laptop on a rolling cart. Now you could do it with an iPad. We had our laptop with a rolling cart and a power cord following us around. And I guess best practice was a clear tool set that identified everybody involved, and you could place the issue on the plan where it happened with a brief description. And then using that markups list, you could filter by responsible party and have that list that would be, either use the status update, it's done or not, or push that out to Excel maybe, where you can track it if that was easier. But that was kind of our best practices. We could all be in the same page in the same document. Again, would be ideal in Studio. If not, maybe Project or somewhere where you could keep that one document and everyone knows what needs to be fixed and where everyone is on the process. And again, just it can't be centralized, finding that clear communication for how often updates are done and by who verifies, and just kind of setting those expectations from the beginning and how it's communicated and who follows up and how often, I guess, would be, in absence of Studio, kind of best practice.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you for this insight. Rita, I hope that was some really good insight for you to learn. I want to go ahead and move over to Yolanda for a second. You definitely hit a hot topic when you started to talk about how you don't let the applicants name the files. You do that for them and it happens automatically. Lots of questions around how is that done? What do you mean you rename the files? Can you share a little bit more insight about that for our audience?
So we're using web services and the APIs to name the files. And so our fantastic IT team designed that so that when the customer loads it into the portal under architectural, for example, and it sends it over to our permitting system, it saves it under the permit number or project number that the customer has created online, and then automatically puts an A-VO1 next to it, and that's the file name. And it's the web service that works to do that, and then sends it to our permitting system, and it's saved in our permitting system in that way. So when the customer then gets to submit a correction to that, they don't have to worry about the naming. We save the name of their original file, whatever the name was that they used on their computer is also saved in our permitting system, so we can reference it if the customer forgets what file they sent us. But then the next version for that architectural is version 2, and so on and so on. We got a lot of feedback from other jurisdictions that were really having a difficult time getting customers to adhere to any kind of naming convention on a regular basis. And our planning department had been using a different system for their reviews prior to us going live, and they also had difficulty with customers naming files. So we decided we would take that away from the customer so that they wouldn't have to worry about it, and we would have consistency.
Awesome. And one more quick question from Charles. He might have missed it, but he wanted to know, what permit tracking system does City of Las Vegas use?
We use N4. It was Hanson, and then it was upgraded to N4, and it's web-based and has open APIs.
Okay, awesome. Okay, so I want to talk about the resubmission process. So we had a couple questions on how do you handle resubmissions for your specific city and county. So I'll leave that question as general as possible. I think I have like maybe 8 questions around the same topic. Guinevere, do you mind jumping in and sharing about how do you handle resubmissions for your city?
So for our submittals, the first one comes in if we need to go ahead and have them resubmit. They can go online, so They get the email that is sent out from our status change that lets them know, log into the online platform, and they can see all of the information, what they need to add to that, and what they need to resubmit. They can go ahead and resubmit that right there on the online portal. Now, we don't have an automatic naming convention set up, which sounds awesome. Yolanda, that sounds like an amazing thing. I wish we had that. We name them all internally. So we do have some naming convention standards that we ask our applicants to rename and then upload back to us. A lot of times it does not get followed though. So it's really up to those planning technicians, the associate planners, whoever's doing that initial check to go in there and make sure that they're named appropriately. We do have several different versions that are in there, which can get really, we don't have folders in our data management system, which would be really nice to have, but all of our documents live in the attachments tab. So it's really important that we name those correctly, and we can have 6, 7, 8 different versions that live in there. The other thing that we can do as well is we can mark things viewable on the online platform. So if we have stuff that we're working on that we don't want people to see, we can go in there, we can work on it, and it's not viewable for our applicants until we decide to mark it that way. The other thing that we do through the data management system is our different reviews are named, commercial new 01. So that's the first review that comes in, and then 02, 03, and so on, so that we can keep track of each one of those reviews that we're doing and the plans that are associated with them.
Now, are you using the web base of Track It? Someone had asked in the questions panel right now.
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Do you use a web-based Track It, or are you using a client version?
We use the client version.
The client version, okay. Yolanda, do you mind jumping in and talking about, how do you handle resubmissions? That's another topic that was very popular when we were talking earlier about your review process.
Yes, so similar to what Genevieve was talking about, we name the reviews based on the number of corrections. We call it corrections if it's during the initial project review. Every time we send it back to the customer, the system will send them an email, tell them to log into the dashboard, send them the links to the files that we have marked up in Bluebeam, so that they can see what the plans examiners have noted. And then they go into the dashboard and they submit what we call a correction. Once the permit is issued, and we can take multiple corrections, and it's the same process every time that we send it back to the customer. Once the permit is issued, they can do revisions also through the dashboard, and they have that option to do revisions and deferred submittals, which are usually for structural items, and so they can submit any changes that are required after permit issuance through the dashboard and go through the same process of going through the review and corrections on those.
Okay. Thank you. So I kind of want to pivot a little bit and talk about change management. I know change is never easy, especially when you hear about new tech coming on board or we're implementing a new system. It's like, oh, maybe I always tend to go into like, what does that look like? However, the benefits of change are always far exceed my expectations. And this has been my experience throughout the years. But question for the panelists, what did it take to finally initiate change and kick off that digital transformation in your city? Michael, I would love to start with you on that question.
I guess we were well positioned to kind of welcome that kind of change, given our area, given our customer base. Being part of my building permit, it was constantly, the regional jurisdictions constantly looking for how can we make permitting more accessible, easier, where can we streamline our processes. So we're always looking for those improvements. Really started to kick off, I think it was as a result of the first downturn. It's all the way back to 2008. had a huge staff. This was well before I joined, but they had a huge staff and had to cut. And when rebuilding, that was the opportunity to start looking at new processes and embracing technology. Doesn't mean new technology isn't met with resistance, because we still have quite a few different personalities, like any organization. And it's understanding you have those that are gung-ho, they want the next thing and they're ready to go, and you have those that you learn a process and want to kind of stick with it for a while before getting the next one. With digital permitting, it was definitely phased. It's definitely thought out as far as not all at once. I mean, one example being we already had those 1 or 2 permit types available for years, and then just making that change to having that option was a big change for our department. Is not everything came in electronically, but we had to ask all of our staff at that point, you need to be able to review everything digitally, because it's now an option, and we can't just ask this one staff to do it and that staff not, because then you have an unbalanced workload. So when it was better position, we made the final push. Again, it wasn't just smooth and easy, but it was having that practice and I guess communication that this is coming, and receiving feedback to what's going to work, what's not going to work. So just having as many opportunities to have conversations about it, pilot it, test it out, and have champions in each work group that everyone can lean on when they need help. So it was taking it in steps, keeping aware of what's out there, and what can you do now to make it happen. I guess kind of real high level, and then a lot of work from the ground level, talking to those doing the work, and how's it going to affect their work, and help get the leading change from the ground level. And it's really, I think, our philosophy, and we've been doing a pretty good job of it, is those doing the work have been really driving the change, and those in management have been supporting the change, making the tough calls. Yeah, I'll be the bad guy and say it's happening now, and then supporting everything. And then the other thing on the training side is just being aware. Our aha then, just initially training on Bluebeam, was we thought we just had work groups to change, but we had different learning styles to train. And that was a big thing too with technology, is knowing that there's a bunch of people that are going to get it, and they're going to get it quick, and they'll be bored by a drawn out training. But you have those that do need the time, and it's just being aware of that commitment is going to be, it's kind of a wide net to catch everybody. We try to make sure everybody was supported, so no one felt. Our main thing when we went 100% is, can you do your job with these tools? And if not, what do you need? We need to get you there. Because if we're going to take the pen away from you, we need to make sure you can use this tool. That's kind of hopefully our approach to each change we make.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Michael. Guinevere, I have a similar question for you. What resistance have you experienced when you transform things into a digital process for both the review and submission sides of things?
So what other systems have we used? Is that the question?
No, what resistance have you experienced on both the review and submission side of things in relation to change management?
Oh, so really what drove us to make the change to electronic reviews, it was an outside force. It was our development community. So they had actually reached out to our city council and expressed concern with how the reviews were being done, namely how long it was taking to do the reviews. So from that point, we decided that we were going to do an audit of the department. So we brought an auditor in, did the audit, got all the findings, and we decided the best path forward would be the electronic review. So really, it was that external push that got us on board with the electronic review process. Once we went to council, so first we got our buy-in from our division heads, our department manager, and then ultimately council, who said, sounds good, run with it, which is what we did. So a little bit different than what Michael was saying. We went live in less than a year of implementation, and we went live with everybody in the whole department. I call it rip the Band-Aid off. We went live with everybody, and everybody had to start using electronic reviews. And that was our building division, planning division, and engineering division. And then the other folks, the other reviewers out there also had to get on board with it. So fire, PD, and public works. There's a whole slew of folks out there that also had to get on board with it. But once we got that approval from council, we ran with it. We said, we're doing it now. We're gonna do it. We get this. So we got it done quickly.
That's awesome. I kind of want to, Michael started talking about training, and I want to pass this on over to Yolanda. You know, training is definitely a critical part of any organization's digital transformation. And, you know, due to your work with the public, that is training is, sorry, I think I just crossed my words. I would like to know, you know, what has been your approach for training? I know Michael started to talk about you know, his training approach. I know that they have different levels of training. Did you have to, you know, what was your approach, Yolanda, when it comes to training? What was your approach, knowing that not everyone's at the same level of comfort with computers? Maybe perhaps there's resistance. I'm like, oh, I don't want to move this. I'm perfectly comfortable doing this with my red marker. You know, curious to get some insight on from you as far as what was your training approach?
Yes, so similar to what Michael said, we wanted to make sure everyone felt comfortable. We have some engineers that have been doing reviews on paper, you know, for 20 and 30 years. And so it was a big change to use Bluebeam to do the reviews. So we got a couple of our people, one of the engineers and one of the plans examiners involved from the beginning. We took them to the conference, from the Extreme conference, when we started going, before we even went live, so that they could see what the software looked like and go to those classes and start learning it and be the champions for their areas and get excited about the new tool, right? I think that was the biggest benefit of bringing them to the conferences. Once we started to go live and have a real date of when we were going to go live with it, then we brought in a trainer to specifically do small group training for all the plans examiners in all the different divisions, because we have the planning, public works folks, fire folks all reviewing our permits. So everybody had small group sessions, and they had the opportunity to ask questions. And then we also did even smaller group sessions with the divisions and asked them for feedback, asked them what specific things they still needed training on. It was multiple sessions for several months. And we then also formed a Bluebeam sort of panel that was cross-divisional, cross-departmental, representative from each of the departments that could also meet once a month and tell us, what else do we need to train folks on? What questions are you getting? What else do we need to do? And so that was the internal training. We also did external training for all of our customers to learn how to use our dashboard. But training is really critical. People have to feel comfortable, and so you have to make sure you dedicate enough time for that.
Yeah, I really like that feedback loop that you created. I think that's definitely critical when it comes to rolling out training, because you want to make sure that you're training on those very important things. And sometimes when you're in a classroom, someone might say, hey, I think this is important, or why, you know, I found this really neat trick in review. I think it's important to also share. So that creates sort of a sense of ownership for everyone involved.
Definitely.
Believe it or not, you know, this hour is going by really fast, and there's a couple of things I want to close off. Not yet. So a couple, you know, 2 more questions for our panelists, but I don't know if you know, but Revu 20 has launched. It was launched last week. Revu 20 is here. We have some amazing student enhancements around invites, participation, and access management. And just to give all of you in this audience just a little bit more about what's in Revu 20. You know, you can now, the invite process is now easier. You can quickly invite project partners from your studio groups and Outlook address book, or simply by copying and pasting an entire email list. That's pretty huge, which Revu will help you process and refine the list until it's just right. Studio administrators can now invite and assign permissions to users before they even have a studio account. So that's super awesome. And you can easily send reminders to your attendees who have not joined the session or into the project. So that's really good. Now it's a little bit more visible in your studio panel. And then you can also see, which is one of my favorite things that I love in these new enhancements, just seeing which sessions are active and which sessions are not, or which ones you need to still join. So question for our panelists. I know that Review 20 is fresh off the press here, but I just wanted to get, sort of your first impressions. What do you think about these enhancements, and how do you think they can benefit the future of digital e-plan review? So I'm going to go ahead and have Michael start this one off.
All right, the lucky one. Yeah, 20. Speaking on behalf of our senior permit techs, who are our studio administrators, the gatekeepers, the gurus, anything in studio that enhances the workflow, they're going to be, I think, grateful to see. Anything that makes it easier to bring all the participants in. I think from a reviewer side, that any way that's easier to look at what sessions they've been invited to and know which ones they need to visit. I think that extra piece to go alongside with Amanda, where they don't have to look at their task list and click through. It sounds like that'll be a faster way for them to look at, okay, where's my session? What do I need to look at? It ties it together, I think, a lot better. So that's kind of excited to see it. It might be a little bit because we're just moving to 19 at the end of September here, but being the same interface and that being the hiccup, we'll be ready to go basically as soon as everyone gets it. As soon as we can get 20, I think we will, because there's another little piece that one of our business analysts is looking at from 20 from our integration side of things, or our automation side of things rather. Yeah. So we'll be excited to move there. I don't know, hopefully before Christmas.
Awesome. I would say that another great thing about Review 20 is that it has the capability to search for tools really fast. So that's going to be really great for anyone getting familiar with Review 20 to really get that onboarding process quicker. Guinevere, any insights, any first impressions on you regarding Review 20 studio enhancements? What do you think? How do you think these can benefit the digital e-plan review?
So we don't use studio sessions very often for our electronic reviews, but we do have people who kind of break off and do their own sessions for things. So I think that's going to be really helpful for them, like Michael said, and to be able to quickly add folks to those sessions. The thing that I'm looking forward to are the measurement enhancements, because that's kind of a place that our folks, especially our public works folks, we're having a little bit of heartburn with. So I'm hoping that will work out really well for them.
Yeah, that's right. We do have some measurement enhancements. And as a matter of fact, that was actually one of our questions from our audience today. All right, Yolanda, any first impressions from you regarding Review 20?
So we are on 18 right now. So I'm excited about these enhancements. I'll have to dig into it, look on the website to see what they are, and hopefully we can get onto 20 faster than we expected. But I'm excited. It sounds really cool.
Awesome. I'm glad you guys are excited. And final question for all three of you. I think this is more, looking forward. What can design firms and contractors, how can they help the government, continue to grow with technology in the future? Any final thoughts there?
Okay, go first.
Yes. I apologize. I didn't call on anyone specific.
That's right. I'll just go ahead and do it. More so because we've toyed with the idea for a long time. Ever since we've been responding to the requests and to our jurisdictional partners and everyone out there. And a big question I had when I went down to the first conference that I had for architects, engineers, contractors is where does AEC want the jurisdictions? And the consistent answer I got was they want us in studio with them as they're putting everything together. And there are certain project types that would lend itself to like design build a lot better, but consistently. And that's what we're still toying with. Not sure when that'll happen, but at some point, and we have a lot of interest with other partner jurisdictions, certain designers and customers, that would be a benefit to the entire process, is if we could get into the plans earlier and comment earlier than having this, the lagged, it's done and now it's reviewed and now we're fixing it. So that's one opportunity we have, that it's increasing in popularity. We just have to figure out how to manage it securely and efficiently. But in the longer future, I think that's still out there, and that's where a lot of us are excited to be.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, Michael. I'll call on Gwenevy next.
All right. The biggest thing for me during this whole electronic review process was really the integration of the softwares and learning upfront and really knowing how the two are integrated and how they're going to work together. That for me is a big thing. The integration that we currently have is the BFX, the Bluebeam file exchange integration, and understanding how that works up front would be really, really helpful. There's a lot of things kind of after the fact that we realized, oh, it doesn't do this because this is what the integration is. And being able to train our folks up front and say, this is how it's going to be, and knowing that up front would be very helpful.
Awesome. Yeah, knowing up front is definitely super helpful. The more we can know up front, the better that we can kind of make that decision as we move along. All right, Yolanda, last but not least, you actually shared sort of what's next for City of Las Vegas, but we'd love for you to close it off with any final thoughts that you want to share. And then I'm going to go ahead and start off with our closing announcement.
So I would say that key learnings from us, the integration has been fantastic. It's been really helpful for all the staff, makes things a lot easier for their reviews. And I think it's saving them time not to have to deal with the file names and all that. But integration also brings some challenges, and our choice to go with sessions brought us some challenges. There's some limitations when you use sessions in terms of your access to do certain things to the files. And so I think really thinking about what the needs are of the organization and examining that before choosing a route is probably a good idea. We thought we still like the approach to sessions because it will give everybody access to all of the files, and so we're hoping to reduce overall time for plan reviews, and that's the goal. So moving forward, we want the fire department to join the online process, and they're really excited about joining since they've already had experience with the building permits and doing reviews online with Bluebeam on that aspect. And then we are also phasing more detail into our dashboard to save time from the permitting, the tech side of the work and the process by having the customer input additional information. So that's going to be our next phase, getting to the point where it's more detailed what the customer is inputting on the web. But we've been very happy with Bluebeam and the support that we've gotten from all of your folks. So I'm excited to see what 20 does and continue moving forward.
Yeah, and I think by the way, your dashboard has also generated quite a couple of questions on our end, and people want to see that dashboard. So maybe it could be a future presentation. But with that, I just want to thank all three of you for taking this time to really share with the Bluebeam community of how your journey was with digitally transforming your e-plan review process. So I cannot thank you enough for sharing. Gwenevy, you've always been such a great resource to our Bluebeam user government community, which happens to be my next slide. Yolanda, you mentioned that both of you had connected and talked about tool sets and stamp sets. We do have a Bluebeam government user group community. So if you're in government, you are more than welcome to join this group. Make sure you email us at communities@bluebeam.com. As you already know, this is a great, great resources to be able to have that knowledge sharing with everyone. All three of our panelists are all members. Michael Niemer back in June did a presentation for the bug group regarding digital signatures. I wanted to talk about digital signatures, but there's actually a recording that you can access once you become a GovBug member, and we'll definitely give you some information how to get to that recording. For those of you who are interested in knowing a little bit more about the dashboard and the process that Yolanda shared, that's also part of the GovBug community, and Guinevere has also presented in the past. So if you want to take some time and do a little deeper dive and get to know a more extensive their permit review process, this is available. So again, make sure you email us at communities@bluebeam.com. We do have the next GovBug meeting already scheduled, happening September 22nd. If you're already a part of the GovBug list, you will get that invite, no problem. If you're not, you want to make sure you email them to make sure you get invited next. If you're looking for ways to help you with your digital transformation to make it easier and faster, we do have a Bluebeam Global Services group that's available to help you do that. You want to go ahead and email them directly at training@bluebeam.com. And with that, this is a bittersweet goodbye. But I want to thank all of you for taking the time to be here. If you're watching the recording, thank you for watching the recording. But this concludes our municipality webinar series. I hope that you enjoyed. I hope you learned. I hope that you have found a great community of Bluebeam users where it's all about sharing the knowledge and helping us grow together. So have a wonderful, wonderful day. And thank you for joining us. And thank you to our panelists. Thank you. Thank you. All right.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.